Yes, I know it's just a guy talking to a camera with a bunch of pictures popping up every now and again, but if you stick around, you might just learn something. Usually when I do these types of videos, I write a script and then I read it as different videos and article clips show up on the screen. It makes it easier to make the videos, really, but this was something that is really important to me, so I just sort of wanted to click record and speak freely to Raider fans out there. And even if you're not a Raider fan and you stumbled upon this video, I think this is something that people need to understand. Obviously the title of the video is why I don't listen to the sports media anymore. And now don't get me wrong, there are times where I'll flip on a show every now and again, and I'm not going to get specific with shows. I'll get specific with people because these people are good at their job. The key is what their job is. Their job is not to report what's happening in the news or even to give a well-educated opinion of what is happening or predictions or concepts of what could happen in the future for different football teams, basketball teams, baseball teams. It's to entertain you, and not so much even entertain, it's just to keep you engaged. Whether you are upset by what is said by certain people, or whether you are excited by what certain people say. And that's where I don't want to get misconstrued here. I don't want people to think that, oh, I'm a Raiders fan, I don't listen to the media because they just crap on the Raiders. No, no, no. There's a lot of people out there that really hype the Raiders up. And if I'm saying you can't listen to the media at all when it comes to sports, you can't listen to the negative or the positive, because the point that I'm trying to make here still stands. And the point is, they're not really here to educate you. And I really started to realize this past offseason. You don't think the Raiders are going to make the playoffs, be a good team. That's totally fine. You could have your reasons for that. But the reason that keeps getting thrown out is, well, the offensive line. Last year, they had a great offensive line. They gutted it. This year, it's in shambles. It's plug and play. We don't know how it's going to go. So for that reason, I think we're going to take a step back. Now, a word from our sponsor. That's not really true. If you look at the concrete evidence, Pro Football Focus, which, again, that's part of the news media. They want to keep you engaged. Excuse me, not the news media, the sports media. But they do have analytical data to back up what they're saying. People don't buy the analytics sometimes, but to them, they have evidence. Our offensive line last year was ranked 24th at the end of the season. That's not good. So for people to say, well, their offensive line is taking a step back because they replaced all their players, is irresponsible sports journalism. What they should be saying is they have a new offensive line. If their new offensive line was as bad as it was last year, they won't improve. That's a different story. But people don't really care, like I've been saying, about being concise, thorough with their predictions, with their analysis. They just want to keep you engaged. So they want to have an opinion on the Raiders. The Raiders are one of the most popular franchises in sports. When they're bad, it's good for football because people just pile on them. When they're good, it's good for football because people put them up on this pedestal. And the offensive line thing is really getting to me. Also, another problem that the Raiders need to fix is the defense. But how are they supposed to fix the defense when they have an aging, expensive offensive line? They get rid of the offensive line pieces that are aging and expensive and that don't play. Trent Brown, I'm looking at you. And they get new, athletic, cheaper offensive linemen. And if this offensive line ends up being 24th overall this year, it's just as good as it was last year, which means that's okay, according to the people that said our offensive line is in shambles right now. All this offensive line has to do for the Raiders is be 24th best in the league to stay exactly the same as it was last year. Think about that. Because we're being told the reason why we're going to be so bad is because of the offensive line. Then the positivity is another thing that's going to come from people who used to play for the Raiders, from people who want to go out on a limb and pick the team. So I'm Adam Rank, and the Raiders are going to go 17-0. It doesn't work like that either. James Jones would always say, I think Derek Carr is a baby A-Rod. Aaron Rodgers, that is. That's also irresponsible because now people are thinking, Derek Carr, James Jones said he's Aaron Rodgers, here we go, MVP season. He's just saying that because that's the hot thing to say. James Jones compared Derek Carr to Aaron Rodgers, and he was his former teammate, so he must know. Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't think he has some similar traits to Aaron Rodgers, but he didn't say that. He said baby A-Rod, which implies this kid is going to be Aaron Rodgers 2.0. And that's the point I'm trying to make here. You have to understand the Colin Cowherds of the world, the Skip Baylesses of the world, they do not care about being right or wrong, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. The executives of Fox, ESPN are not coming into the boardroom and saying, hey, you were wrong about your Super Bowl pick. You better get it right this year or we're going to put you off the air. No, they're saying your ratings are through the roof. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And that's what I want people to understand. It's really, really easy to fall on the negative side of things because people pile on the Raiders. But you have to understand, and they could be right, that doesn't mean what they're saying right now is coming from a place of logic. It's coming from a place of entertainment. You see it in the political world. That's not something I'm getting into at all. But it's the same thing. They're not reporting the news. If you want to see the news, you go to your local news and they report the news. If you want to be entertained, you go to that one or the other one. We all know which ones I'm talking about. Staying away from that. None of it really matters. If you watching this are like me, and I always say this, I'm an expert on one team in each league. And that's a team I root for because I watch every down. I listen to every press conference. If you are confident in your opinion as a Raider fan, you don't need anyone else to tell you that you're right or wrong. Last year, I thought we were going to go 10-6, but I said the floor was 7-9, the ceiling was 11-5. And we were sort of right in the middle there because in football, the ball bounces one way, Miami, you lose the game. The ball bounces another way, New York, you win the game. That's the way it happens. And that's the way it's always going to be. I guess the goal of me trying to make this video is to tell you guys not to buy in positively or negatively into anything that the media is saying, sports-wise, because, and I've said this 1,000 times in this video, it's not their job to give you concise, logical opinions and theories. Their job is to pull in those views and entertain you. It's the reason why Carr has been getting so much positive and negative criticism over his whole career, because the Raiders, while having Carr as their quarterback, were not really good or bad up until this point. They were sort of in the middle, and when you can't make fun of them for being bad and you can't praise them for being good, the one thing you got is the quarterback, and you just sort of throw everything on them, positive, negative, because you got to talk about the Raiders. They're a popular franchise. I guess I'm done talking about this. I don't know. You guys let me know how you feel. Again, I started this off by saying I do watch those shows every now and again because, you know, they are entertaining. I do like watching Max and Stephen A. yell at each other. But at the end of the day, it's just, it's really nonsense. And I'm not taking away anything that those people do. It's not easy to sit in front of a camera and talk to you right now, and this isn't even live. I get to fix the mistakes I made. They're doing it live for 3 hours a day. That's not easy. But to sit here and say that it's logical, that it's a gathering a bunch of intel, it's just not true. It's anecdotal evidence to take the obvious thing here and the obvious thing there. And if you talk about a bunch of different things, but you say the most obvious cliche thing about each of those things, you sort of look smart because, hey, you were talking about the Jets and now you're talking about the Jaguars, and hey, let's talk about the Raiders too. I could sit here and say one thing about each of the 32 teams that I know about them, and you think I'm an expert? No. I'm an expert on one team, and that's this team. And to be clear, I think we're going to be pretty good this year, because I believe that the offensive line is going to be better than it was last year, even though they have you believing that last year we had one of the best offensive lines in the league, when in fact that was just not the case. We were bad in the second half of the year against the run, and we were old and expensive. This is all you need to know. When people are saying Trent Brown is such a big loss, they clearly didn't watch last season because he didn't play. So if he's such a big loss, but we had a good offensive line last year, those things don't add up. Either we don't need him because we had such a good offensive line last year, or we had a bad offensive line last year without him, and we didn't need him anyway because he didn't play. You see what I'm saying? I don't know. This turned into a sort of a ramble. I hope in the editing process I could save this video. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm going to do, more videos like this when things come to my mind. You guys let me know other videos, other opinion pieces you would like to see me do. I'm definitely not calling them that. But, yeah. Please be sure to subscribe. It is free after all, no charge to you. And just win, baby.